I want you to take a second and think back to yourself at 24. Do you remember what your bank account looked like? For most of us, it was probably a bit of a disaster. Maybe you were living in a cramped apartment with 3 roommates, eating pasta 5 nights a week, and checking your balance at the ATM with a slight sense of dread before every night out. But if you really look back, do you remember feeling truly insecure? Probably not. Back then, you had nothing to lose. You were a person with a backpack and a dream, and if things went south, you could just pivot. Now, think about your life today, or the life you see people leading in their early 40s. You're likely earning 2, 3, maybe 4 times what you did back then. You have the title, the house, and the professional respect. By every metric of success, you've arrived. Yet there's this quiet, nagging weight in your chest, a sense that despite the higher salary, you are actually more vulnerable than you've ever been. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? We spend 20 years climbing the ladder, only to find that the higher we get, the more we fear the fall. We're told from a very young age that the solution to financial anxiety is more income. We believe that once we hit a certain number, the clouds will part and we'll finally feel safe. But for the vast majority of people hitting their 40th birthday, the opposite happens. The more they earn, the less secure they feel. And if you're feeling this right now, I want you to know that you aren't doing it wrong. You haven't failed at some secret game of finance. The truth is that our society has built a very efficient trap, one that aligns perfectly with our psychology. We've been led to believe that security is a destination we reach through accumulation, when in reality, security is the distance between what you have and what you feel you need. And as we age, that distance is shrinking, even as our paychecks grow. Most people aren't suffering from a lack of money, they are suffering from the weight of the expectations that come with it. To understand why this happens, we have to look at the math of our midlife lives, but more importantly, the psychology behind it. When you're 25, your expenses are mostly variable. You can scale down your life in a weekend if you have to. You can move, you can cancel subscriptions, you can eat cheaper. But at 40, your expenses have become fixed. You don't just have a rent payment, you have a mortgage that is tied to a specific school district for your kids. You don't just have a car, you have 2 car payments that are necessary for your commute and your family's logistics. You have insurance premiums, property taxes, and the silent growing costs of maintaining a professional life. You've built a machine that requires a massive amount of fuel just to keep idling. This is what I call the maintenance trap. Your high income isn't going toward building your future anymore, it's going toward maintaining the present. When your cost of living is high, your margin for error is low, and nothing creates a feeling of insecurity faster than a low margin for error. Then there's the invisible force of lifestyle creep. Now, when I say lifestyle creep, I'm not talking about buying a Rolex or a sports car. For most people, it's much more subtle and much more rational. It's the decision to buy higher quality groceries because you care about your health. It's the decision to live in a safer neighborhood. It's the decision to put your children in extracurricular activities that give them a head start. These aren't lavish choices, they're the choices of a responsible adult. But each one of these choices adds a brick to the wall of your fixed expenses. Before you know it, you're earning $150,000 a year, but you have the same $500 of fun money at the end of the month that you had when you were earning $40,000. The difference is that at $40,000, your mistakes were cheap. At $150,000, a job loss or a medical emergency feels like an existential threat to the entire ecosystem you've built for your family. The stakes have been raised, but the safety net hasn't grown at the same rate. We also have to talk about the sandwich generation effect, which hits right around age 40. This is a unique psychological and financial pressure point where you are simultaneously responsible for the generation coming up and the generation going out. You're trying to save for your children's college while also realizing that your parents might need help with their long-term care. You are the pivot point for everyone else's security. It's a heavy mantle to carry. When you look at your bank account, you aren't just seeing your money, you're seeing the survival fund for your entire family tree. That's a lot of pressure for a single paycheck to handle. It changes the way you look at your job. You can't just quit because your boss is a jerk anymore. You can't just take a year off to find yourself. You are locked into the system, and that lack of agency is the primary driver of the insecurity we feel. We feel less secure because we have less freedom to say no. So, where is the turning point? How do we stop this feeling of running faster and faster just to stay in the same place? The shift begins when we stop defining security as more and start defining it as enough. We have to realize that our brains are hardwired for something called hedonic adaptation. We get used to the new nice thing very quickly, and it becomes the new baseline. To break the cycle, we have to intentionally lower our baseline. I'm not talking about living in poverty or depriving yourself of joy. I'm talking about a mindset shift where you decouple your self-worth and your sense of safety from your standard of living. Real security doesn't come from having a big house. It comes from knowing you could live in a much smaller one and still be okay. It's the psychological freedom of knowing that your identity isn't tied to the things your money buys. This realization changes everything about how you make decisions. When you stop trying to maintain an image of success, you start making choices that actually create success. You start prioritizing the gap, that space between what you earn and what you spend. In your 40s, the goal shouldn't be to see how much you can accumulate. The goal should be to see how much slack you can build into your life. Slack is what allows you to breathe. Slack is what allows you to take a lower-paying job that you actually love, or to be present for your parents without panicking about the cost. Money is just a tool to buy back your time and your peace of mind. But if you're not careful, you'll end up spending all your time and peace of mind just to get more money. It's a bad trade, but it's one that most of the world is making every single day. If you're looking for a practical way to start applying this, start with a vulnerability audit. Sit down and look at your expenses, but don't look at them through the lens of what can I afford? Look at them through the lens of what owns me. Ask yourself, if my income dropped by 30% tomorrow, what parts of my life would collapse? The things that would collapse are your vulnerabilities. Maybe it's a car payment that's too high, or a subscription to a lifestyle you don't even enjoy anymore. Start chipping away at those vulnerabilities. It's not about being frugal for the sake of being cheap, it's about being frugal for the sake of being free. Every dollar you remove from your fixed cost of living is a pound of pressure removed from your shoulders. It's a way of telling yourself that you are in control, not the bank and not your employer. I also want you to consider the expectation gap. A huge part of why we feel insecure at 40 is because we're comparing our reality to an idealized version of what we thought 40 would look like. We thought we'd be settled. We thought we'd have it all figured out. But the world is more volatile than it was 30 years ago. Careers are less linear. The traditional path is crumbling. When we compare our messy, complicated lives to a polished social media feed or an outdated 1950s ideal, we feel like we're failing. But you aren't failing. You are navigating a more complex financial landscape than any generation before you. Give yourself some grace. Security isn't a static state of being, it's a practice. It's the daily habit of choosing simplicity over status. As we wrap this up, I want you to take a deep breath. If you're 40 and you're feeling more anxious than you were at 20, it's not because you've done something wrong, it's because you're human and you're carrying a lot. You've built a life that matters, and it's natural to be afraid of losing it. But remember that your value as a person isn't tied to your ability to maintain a certain zip code or a certain type of car. You are more than your output. You are more than your mortgage. The feeling of security you're looking for won't be found in the next promotion or the next market upswing. It will be found in the moments where you realize you already have what you need to be okay. It's the moments of quiet mornings, the laughter of your kids, and the knowledge that you are resilient enough to handle whatever comes next. Progress in life isn't always about moving forward and upward. Sometimes it's about pruning back so that you can actually grow. It's about finding that margin again, that space where you can breathe, where you can think, and where you can finally feel safe. Take it one step at a time. Progress beats perfection every single day. You're doing better than you think you are, and you have everything it takes to bridge the gap.